with me being a Christmas baby, born on December 25th of the year 2000. Many of you are probably wondering, what happened in December of 2000? We'll look no further than this video. Hi everyone, my name is Matt Krabudnik, and behind me here, we got an audience supporting me here, and obviously no audience is here, but let's just pretend that there is. So with that said, in this video, I'll be giving you a brief little history lesson as to what happened within the month and year of which I was born, which is December 2000. And something I'll be referring to throughout the video is something called STEEP, and each letter within this word resembles a particular category of which I'll go over. So with with the S, that's the social stuff. Then we move to technology, then then economics, environmental, and then political. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. So under social stuff that happened, we had U.S. and world population counts, in which the U.S. had topped 282 million people, and the world population had increased just a little more than 6 billion people. Then for those of us into music and various genres of music, we have our most popular musical artists and their songs, in which the most popular of these for this time was Independent Woman Part 1 by Destiny's Child, in which this had not only gotten awards and biggest gain in airplay, but also gains in performance. Other popular songs under various artists included Case of X What You Gonna Do by Maya, along with Arms Wide Open by Creed. Then for those of us into American college football, we had the Florida Gators versus the Auburn Tigers and the NCAA Southern Eastern Conference Football Championship, in which Florida beat Auburn 28-6, and the number of people that attended this game was 73,427 people. And then this was the last game for Florida head coach and offensive coordinator Steve Spurrier. And we also had our MVP out of this game as well, which was Rex Grossman, a QB out of Florida. So with all the social things out of the way, now we move into technology, in which under technology, we had the GHSSPL program, or what is called the Joint High-Powered Solid-State Laser, which began on December of 2000. And the purpose of this program was to help the U.S. develop technologies that could eventually evolve into tactical laser weapons that were solid and highly efficient. And many of these weapons have since been developed and have been very useful in various applications in today's countries, in the country's uses in military and so on. Then we move on to Jack Kelby, who was a Nobel Peace Prize winner. And under Jack Kelby, he had won the Nobel Peace Prize for December 10th of 2000 for the invention of the microchip, in which the microchip was the basic building block to all the modern digital technology that we see nowadays, along with the various devices. So obviously, with having a shortage in today's current climate, based on the stuff that's happened, obviously it makes it troublesome for new technologies to be developed and produced, and thus making it more difficult for consumers to access all this technology. So then we move on to economics, in which under economics of this time, we had the Comedy Futures Modernization Act, and this had clarified regulatory responsibility between the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission and the Comedy Futures Trading Commission for futures trading. And this act had resulted in the repealing of a ban on trading single stock futures. And then speaking of stocks, we then have the New York Stock Exchange, in which they use the decimal price increments rather than fractions to make bids and offers that cause the spreads to narrow. And as a result, the trading costs were then reduced for the smaller investors. And then with gas being so expensive nowadays, based off the stuff that has happened in Ukraine and so on, back then on December of 2000, we had our price per gallon at $1.51, but inflated then to $2.06. Then the price per barrel was $26.72, but then inflated to $36.36. And then the U.S. gas consumption at this time was 3.1 billion barrels, and the per capita consumption was 461.6 gallons. And then we had the U.S. oil production, in which the U.S. had produced 5.8 million barrels per day. Then this would be the perfect time then to transition into our environmental stuff, in which, very much like nowadays with COVID, us having COVID. Back then, there was the mad cow disease, in which there was a rise of these cases that were alarming in more than 10 European countries, and it was so bad up in these countries, up in Europe, that on December 20th of 2000, Germany's health minister had issued a warning to people to stop eating some sausages that had been coming from the backbones of cattle and cow, and thus the producers were called upon to take products off the shelves and off the market based off the scientific recommendations that were given out. And then as for the U.S. national average temperature, on December of 2000, it was ranked to be the 7th coolest December since the records had begun in 1895. And the preliminary national average temp for this time was 28.9 degrees Fahrenheit. And then the other notable thing under environmental stuff was that the Chernobyl power plant that we all know of, after 14 years of spoiling the world's worst nuclear accident or incident rather, it is officially shut down at this time and is no longer in operation. Finally, we have the political stuff, in which under politics of this time, the most notable thing that came out of it was the Al Gore versus the George W. Bush election, in which Bush won the election, being elected 43rd president of the United States. And other things that went on in the election that are pretty significant was that led to Bush being elected president was that there was a recount in votes in Florida because the counts between the two candidates were so close to one another, and then of course the final certification of the electoral count, or of the electoral college, that didn't come until December 12th, and then of course the results weren't made official until December 18th. And what's important to note out of this election and why it's so important in the history books of American history is because of the fact that the courts had never been involved so heavily and so deeply within our U.S. presidential elections. So the courts were never put in this type of position before, which is why it's so important. Which is a big reason why this election was so important and notable in the history books. So with all that said, if you can remember STEEP and all those 5 different concepts and sections I had gone over today, this will have given you then a pretty good idea for what went down in December of 2000. And I hope you all enjoyed watching this video, and thank you for watching.